For 10 years, Chinese sellers have been cheating on Amazon and getting away with it. We're talking about fake reviews by the thousands, stolen photos, counterfeit products, dangerous junk that could burn your house down. And if you've ever bought something on Amazon with 5,000 perfect reviews that turned out to be garbage, this is exactly why. But when these sellers finally get caught, they just disappear and pop back under a new account the following week. Now, why couldn't anyone stop them? Because they were in China. Amazon could ban them and you could report them, but it didn't matter because the FTC could not get to them. You can't file a lawsuit in China, so these sellers were untouchable. But then something weird happened. Chinese sellers on Amazon started dropping like flies, from 60% of all sellers down to just 36%. Now that sounds great, right? Except they did not leave. They just became American, and that was the biggest tactical error that they've ever made. And today, I'm going to show you why this is the best thing that's happened to Amazon in over a decade and what it means for every single one of us who shops and sells online. But first, let me show you exactly what we were dealing with. Here's what competing against Chinese sellers on Amazon looked like in 2019. A product launches Monday with 0 reviews, but by Friday, it has over 500 5-star reviews, all fake. Meanwhile, as an American seller, you spend months photographing products, writing perfect bullet points, optimizing your listings, but come Wednesday morning, a Chinese seller has copied everything. Your photos, your descriptions, your title, undercut your price by 40% and stolen your buy box. Now, even when Amazon eventually pulls the listing, the seller's already gone. And you couldn't do anything about it. If Amazon suspended their account, they'd have a new one by Monday. And if you want to sue them, good luck serving papers to Shenzhen Electronics Co. 3rd floor, Building 7. So Chinese sellers operated in a legal no man's land for years, and the only consequence was losing an account that they could replace in 48 hours. But that rage all of us American sellers have felt, it's about to have an outlet. So let me tell you what happened in Guangzhou in 2023. Chinese tax authorities showed up unannounced at several e-commerce companies after cross-referencing their bank data with platform sales. And one by one, they caught sellers red-handed. One company was hiding $300,000 in income. Another was concealing $15 million in sales, and by 2024, these penalties hit record levels, with some sellers paying over $50 million in fines. And then, China passed a law that changed everything. Platforms like Amazon must now report all seller income directly to Beijing. And upon hearing the news, Chinese sellers flipped out and started registering for US LLCs like crazy. US retail LLCs registered in the past year increased by 400%. That is 36,000 new American companies in 1 year, which is almost as many as all the Starbucks locations in the entire United States. Now let me show you exactly how this works. Meet John Smith from Delaware, except John Smith does not exist. His LLC was registered by a service company in Shenzhen for $1,800. And within 48 hours, he has a Wells Fargo business account, and within a week, his American company is now selling on Amazon. His warehouse is still in Shenzhen. His employees are still in China, and his products are still manufactured in Guangzhou. But on paper, he's American now. And from a shopper's perspective, you can't tell the difference anymore. The seller name looks American. The LLC is registered in Delaware or Wyoming, and everything looks legit. Amazon reports the revenue to the US and not China, and the Chinese government sees nothing. Thousands of Chinese sellers did exactly this. They traded a $50,000 tax bill for what they thought was continued immunity from the law. But here's what they didn't realize. They just traded invisibility for a registered agent who can be served papers. And they gave up their greatest advantage, which was being untouchable. Here's what's different now. The FTC can finally take action. Now before, a Chinese seller runs fake reviews on your listing, you report them to Amazon, their account gets suspended, and they open a new account the next day. But now, that same seller operates as a Delaware LLC, you report them to the FTC. And the FTC can actually do something because that seller is now subject to US law. Let me give you a real example. 2 years ago, a Chinese seller called Shenzhen Zongheng Domain got caught bribing customers for 5-star reviews. Amazon suspended them and froze $500,000 in their account. But that was it. Basically a slap on the wrist, especially when you're making tens of millions of dollars a year. But today, the FTC can fine you $51,744 per fake review, and if you're a US entity, they can actually collect. By the way, if you're interested in learning how to start your own profitable online store, make sure you sign up for my free 6-day e-commerce mini course below. It's 100% free, and I guarantee you'll learn a lot. But it gets even better. Product liability is actually enforceable now. If a dangerous product injures someone and the seller has a US entity, you can now sue that Delaware LLC, get a default judgment, and seize everything. Amazon balances, bank accounts, and even their inventory. Now, US sellers are already doing this and winning. We're talking judgments of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Amazon is freezing account balances to cover those settlements. But here's the real killer. These offenses aren't just civil anymore. They're criminal. We're talking wire fraud, mail fraud, customs fraud. The people who signed those LLC documents can now be held personally liable and actually go to prison. And that last one, that's what's keeping Chinese sellers up at night. At the time of this filming, Chinese goods are currently facing 30% tariffs. So sellers have been dodging them by undervaluing shipments, mislabeling country of origin, and routing packages through third countries. Now, when US Customs catches a foreign company doing this, they seize the shipment, maybe issue a fine, but business continues. But when you're a US entity, tariff fraud is a federal crime. Customs and Border Protection just launched their Trade Fraud Task Force this year, and they're using AI to catch patterns. And they're working with the Department of Justice to pursue criminal referrals. They can freeze bank accounts, seize Amazon balances, raid FBA warehouses, and issue permanent import bans. And it hits the people whose names are on those LLC documents. Now before, you might be able to dodge tariffs, maybe lose a shipment, and probably get away with it. But today, you dodge tariffs and get caught, you will face federal charges, potentially do time, and lose everything. Now pretend you're a Chinese seller who shipped 10,000 lithium batteries that weren't safety tested. Your name is now on paper in the same country where someone sued Red Bull for $13 million because it didn't actually grow them wings. So think about that for a moment. A Chinese seller now has to make a difficult choice. Option 1, stay Chinese, pay the taxes, and lose your profit. Or option 2, become American, avoid Chinese taxes, but accept legal liability. Both options have consequences. So what does that mean if you're a seller like you and me? If you're an American seller who's been grinding it out, playing by the rules and building a real brand while watching cheaters win, this is your moment. For years, you couldn't compete on price because the other side wasn't playing the same game. But that era is ending. The FTC, Customs, and Amazon's own AI enforcement teams are all tightening the screws. And what used to be the Wild Wild West is slowly becoming a regulated marketplace where legitimacy wins. So your biggest competitive advantage now isn't your price, it's your credibility. So here's what you should do. Document everything. If someone rips your listing or steals your photos, file a real claim because you can actually win judgments now and claim damages. File those IPs, trademarks, and copyrights you've been putting off. The playing field is finally designed to reward people who actually protect their work. And build for the long term. This shift filters out the hit-and-run operators, the review farms, and the throwaway accounts. They can't survive as easily now under this scrutiny, and that leaves more room for real businesses. Now, Chinese sellers still have cheap manufacturing, but now they have US legal accountability, FTC enforcement, product liability, and potential criminal prosecution. Now, you still have higher costs, but you know this terrain. You've been playing by these rules your entire career, you understand US compliance, you know what the FTC will enforce, and you know how customs works, and you speak the language. Meanwhile, Chinese sellers are learning to navigate these waters now, and our current president is inherently unpredictable, and that is a disadvantage they've never faced before. So if you've been on the fence about starting an e-commerce brand, this ironically is the best time in years. Now here's what this means if you're a buyer. For 10 years, you've been the collateral damage in this war. You bought products with fake reviews. You got counterfeit junk. You had no one to hold accountable when things went wrong. But that's changing. Right now, every seller hiding behind a US LLC thinks that they're safe, but they just made themselves vulnerable to the same laws that let someone sue Red Bull for $13 million. Now yes, prices might go up a couple bucks, but for the first time in a decade, There's actually real accountability behind that add to cart button. And if you've been burned by cheap throwaway Amazon products before, what comes next is going to look very different. Because when something goes wrong, there's now a path to justice instead of a dead email address on the other side of the world. And the data backs this up. Fake reviews and copycat listings are actually declining. Federal enforcement and algorithmic detection have made these practices riskier and less common. Now, the marketplace isn't perfect yet, but by every measure, it's cleaner than it was 2 years ago. Amazon is also permanently banning more sellers than ever. And industry data shows that permanent suspensions have spiked since 2023, and once you're out, you're likely out for good. But we have to be patient, because right now we're in a transition period and it's super messy. However, the direction is clear. The headlines say that Chinese sellers are disappearing from Amazon, but the truth is they're not gone. They just went stealth and they're hiding behind US LLCs. And to me, this is a tactical error because they gave up being untouchable. Right now, there are about 350,000 Chinese sellers operating as American companies. Every single one of them thinks that they've outsmarted the system. But here's what they don't realize. They traded invisibility for a paper trail. They traded immunity for accountability, and they traded operating in the shadows for operating in the most litigious country on earth. Right now, somewhere in America, a lawyer is drafting a lawsuit with their name on it. And the next 5 years won't look like the last 10, and I don't think that they know what's coming. Now that you understand why the playing field is becoming level again for American sellers, make sure you watch this video here on exactly what I would do if I were to start an online store all over again from complete scratch.